Hey guys, welcome to the 10th video of this tutorial series Android application development using Kotlin. So in the last video we talked about MVC architecture and we also implemented a simple application using MVC. I hope you run the application. I'm sorry, in the video I forgot to run the application, but I think you ran the application and I hope it went well. So in this video I'm talking about another alternative pattern of coding, which is MVP, basically model view presenter. But before going to model view presenter pattern, I'd like to first talk to you about the limitations of MVC and why MVP was needed there. So if you recall, all the application logic or all the business logic implemented in the controller side. The view side, basically the main activity, was just implementing the view part, and then the data side, which was student, was just taking care of the data. The student controller was handling all the business logic. It's simpler in case of a small application, but when your features gets extended in your application, or when you add more and more features in your application, your business logic becomes bigger and your controller class will have too much responsibility to handle all those business logics. Also, in Android activities are very tightly coupled with both UI and data access mechanisms. Thus, whenever we're using MVC, it is easy to fall into trap of placing both controller and view logic in an activity or fragment whenever you're going for a big application. Based on these problems, there's an alternative pattern, which is an MVP pattern. So what is MVP pattern? It's a good alternative architecture which provides a way to structure your application. It provides modularity, stability, and in general a more maintainable and clean code base. So similar to MVC, this also consists of 3-layer model, view, and presenter. The first layer is the model layer. This is similar to the previous one. In MVC pattern, it will continue to handle your data in simple classes. The second one is view. This is again the same. Your views are going to be implemented through activity or fragment. I'll talk to you about fragment in later class in detail. But in case of view in MVP, we'll change the scope of what the view controls in MVP. And the last one is presenter. The presenter handles both UI bits based on changes to the data model and also processes user input. The presenter will contain much of the business logic and replace the controller from MVC. So whenever you're hearing this might sound like they are the same thing, and then just the presenter is being replaced, or the controller is being replaced by the presenter. But in MVP, instead of having a controller activity which handles both changes to the model and what's displayed on the screen, the controller and view part here in MVP are separated out, and both presenter and view becomes more lightweight. So the responsibility of the controller is divided, so that the presenter and the view, they are considered as a separate entities, and both are made somewhat lightweight than in view and controller in MVC pattern. As you can see in this figure, this is the architecture of MVP pattern. So data, which is the model, and UI, which is the view, only communicate with one another through intermediate class, which are the presenters. So presenter, they contain all the business logic, while the view focuses on how to display the data. The control responsibility is now split between the view and presenter. Okay, the presenter actually handles the flow of data and abstracts away business logic from the controller. So the Android specific code stays in the view layer, and the presenter also can be independently tested from Android SDK. What we have here is we have two interfaces in both presenter and views, which will define these presenter and views. So interface will help with decoupling parts of architecture. Interface will also form a contract between presenter and the view here. So whenever there are changes in the data, presenter will be notified first that the data has been changed. View will then receive the data through the presenter and update itself using the data that is received from the presenter. Now whenever you're changing the data based on some user action from the view, the same flow happens. So the user action is first notified to the presenter, and then the presenter handles data changes in the model. So I hope now you can find the difference between MVC and MVP. MVC does not have an interface architecture there, but MVP actually uses interface, so that both the presenter and then the viewer controller can be made somewhat lightweight. So thank you for listening. In the upcoming video we're going to implement an example on MVP pattern. Thank you.